Okay, Michael J here. How you guys doing? Glad to see everybody here. Everybody's alive and well. Let's hope you're alive and well. Sending you love and peace to everybody. Love and healing to everybody, especially Ukraine right now. Bad situation going on there. But this morning we're going to focus on submarines and carriers, but mostly submarines. Because I really think submarines are broken in this game, and we really need to address this. So submarines are a mess, and this is something we need to work on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play Monsieur Potato Quality. I like Potato Quality's delivery. And I think he brings together a pretty good presentation. I might fit Sea Lord Mountbatten in as well. But we're going to look back at pretty much exactly a month ago, just day shy a month ago. Start off with April 5th, video after that April 6th, and then one after that, I believe April 8th. But we're going to focus specifically on submarines, a little bit on CVs, and battleships, and how this interaction between these different classes come into play, and how it affects the gameplay. So questions, comments, throw in chat. Let us know what you think. And remember, Bob is your uncle. So without further ado, let's get started here.
Today, I wanted to talk about battleship play in 2022.
Questions, comments, throw in chat there,
I
folks.
have
Thanks
been really struggling to figure out how to play this game with submarine and CV matchmaker. It's been quite difficult to get my usual aggressive battleship games in, so playing a little bit more passive today in the Yamato. I really want to learn or relearn how to play this game in 2022. I do think that adding submarines and carriers the way they are does require a dramatic shift in playstyle compared to what I have been doing in the past. It actually reminds me a lot of how I would play and approach matches when I played in Kings of the Sea and Clan Battles, competitive, Supremacy League, if you guys remember that. Although Supremacy League was actually much more aggressive because it was, well, tier 8 and before smoke fire penalties, so you could actually have a Bismarck smoke tunnel into the B cap, firing guns blazing, and not be spotted. That was a long time ago, though, so things have been changing over several years, but I do think that it's about time that I, instead of just complaining about the state of the game, I learn how to play it differently. I do really enjoy this game still. I do want to make that very clear. I have a lot of fun with World of Warships. I think it is a very unique game, and I really haven't experienced anything else like it. And I really enjoy it. But for those of you, especially that come and watch my streams on Twitch, you may know I get a little tilted every once in a while. And those streams can quickly devolve into me just complaining and being incredibly harsh on this video game. But I do really like World of Warships still. I like playing this game a lot, and I want to enjoy my time with it. I constantly think about when I'm approaching this game, the initial matches I play, I'm excited to play. I actually do enjoy my first couple games, but then the CV submarine games, some of the issues with certain surface ships, although there's not as many of those, come into play, and then I find myself not really having a very good time. And I don't want that. I want to have fun in this game. I think that's a very important part of video games, is fun. It's not all about being hyper competitive. I think there's a large element of fun required in these games since it is a hobby and something that should be done and as a break from the monotony of life and work and stresses like that. I think it should be fun, and that's what I want it to be and to continue to be for me moving forward. So battleships in 2022 then, how do you play them? Well, I think it's going to have to start with passive play. I think it's going to have to start with this long-range playstyle where a battleship is not treated as a tank at all. It shouldn't be tanking. That's something crucial about competitive play. I haven't really talked about how I approached competitive play back when I played, but Battleship was set up as long-range crossfire and artillery support. It was there to support the team in, well, bursting down a singular enemy ship. And the overmatch helped, the long-range accuracy certainly helped, and it was really only used as a tank as a last resort. It was used to, well, really secure or try and win back a game in the later stages of a match, where then you'd push a battleship into a cap, into a really highly contested choke point, and try and win that way. But as far as initial positioning goes, using up that HP pool early really set your team at a disadvantage. So I really don't play this way most of the time, and it was really only in competitive that I played like that. And I think that playstyle and that mindset really does need to transfer over for myself to random battles. I think many of you know that I play random battles quite aggressively. And I gotta be honest, the games don't usually work out like you see on this channel. Surprise, surprise, YouTube videos are often cherry-picked best games. If you didn't know, now you do. But my channel, and I think most other YouTubers, do that. I think they're more interesting games. And the games where I just kind of YOLO in, do nothing, and die quickly, or I don't get much damage, they're not as interesting to watch. And there is an element of needing to entertain on YouTube for sure, but I want to also enjoy my time where I'm not, spending 8 out of 10 games feeling bad and dying quickly and getting frustrated. So I do also want to hear from you guys, what you guys think the meta is going to look like coming up this year, and how you specifically are approaching this game in a positive way, hopefully. I'd like to know how you guys are approaching your battleships, your cruisers, your destroyers. All these surface ships really have to learn how to play around these incredibly high impact ships like CVs and submarines, really shaking up the meta and how you have to play your surface ships. So as far as battleships, I do think the starting point is a longer range, more campy playstyle. So Yamato, of course, naturally fits into this very well. Cruisers, on the other hand, that one I'm struggling with a little bit more. I think heavy cruisers can certainly get away with this more passive playstyle since they tend to have more range and better shell velocity at long range, that kind of thing. They do just a little bit more work in this long-range campier meta. Whereas light cruisers like Jinan, for example, I'm having a real tough time of just even getting in range and getting damage out of these games since, well, the passive playstyle is really tough to deal with when your ship is so focused on and designed around stopping people from pushing in, right? Like Jinan has 40 torpedoes potentially launched at around 13-kilometer range. And of course, the main guns base are 14.5 kilometer range and have a very fast fire rate. Do lots of damage with fires, that kind of thing. But if you're never in range of ships, you can't really make use of that. And if people aren't pushing, it's tough to make use of the torpedoes. So I'm not sure how it's going to look moving forward if battleships start to play so passive. A lot of these cruisers are really, really going to struggle. Even my Worcester game that was yesterday, I think I did a really good job that game, but I still had to push in quite aggressively and riskily, right? Of course, that is not the most comfortable position for a light cruiser to be in. Open water pushing into a Kurfürst and a Henry and a Zhao and Bergamo, that kind of thing. Of course, I did have help, and it did manage to work out, but it's not a comfortable position to be in. It's very difficult to pull off stuff like that, I think. Most of the time, things do end up going wrong. As far as destroyers, I'm actually not sure. Part of me thinks DDs will be okay because of their ability to reposition using concealment, potentially getting into aggressive position, using smoke to then start to farm with the HE, use torpedoes that are potentially very long range, like gearing might be a much better pick as we go forward with those pretty good 16.5 kilometer torps that do good damage and are reasonably quick and not too easily spotted. But then again, submarines are really tough for destroyers to deal with. It's kind of odd, but I've had a really difficult time dealing with the submarines since they can just dip away and disappear underwater when I am spotted on the surface and a bunch of enemy ships shoot at me right away. Because of course that's what we want to do as bigger surface ships. We want to kill the enemy destroyers. So playing that destroyer, it is a little bit tough. So I'm not really sure about that one, but as far as a starting point for battleships, which I do know a little bit better than the other two, I think this more campy playstyle is going to be the way. You'll notice earlier on I was playing more around my carrier. And then later on I pushed up and decided to take this island next to the Buffalo, who, again, would have some AA to help deal with these carriers. I think the tier 10 carriers can be dealt with a one, probably two friendships next. Probably enough overlapping AA to deter a carrier at tier 10. But these super carriers, I'm still not sure what their power level is and how tanky the planes are, but it seems like you might need to clump up with 3 or 4 friendly ships. I think that's really going to be the key to not having a frustrating experience when there's an enemy carrier in the game, at least at higher tiers. Clumping up with your teammates, getting that overlapping AA. Now, of course, overlapping AA is great, but if your entire team lemming trains to one side, that's going to be an easy way to lose matches. I find that taking only one flank and giving up the entire rest of the map tends to lead to losses, since there's a lot of very easy crossfires that develop when you lose 3/4 of the map. And I don't know how to deal with that. I guess probably the answer is just 3-man div in ships with decent AA, and then you can take whatever flank that your team decides to just give up. But I don't really know. That's why I want to have your input in the comments down below. Let me know what you're thinking of the meta with subs and carriers. Try not to be overly negative. I know I certainly am very pessimistic when it comes to subs and carriers being in the game, but I'd love to know what you think are ways of playing your surface ships, maybe your favorite class, your favorite ship that you enjoy in World of Warships, how you're approaching that ship now that we have this submarine and carrier playstyle and ships in the game. How are you going to be dealing with that and trying to enjoy your surface ship? I don't really know what I'm going to do yet with some of my brawling battleships, my Kurfürst, Ohio, Preußen, Schlieffen, these kinds of things. Really not sure what I'm going to do with those ones. But as far as more standard battleships, playing with my team, overlapping AA, grouping up to hopefully deal with a submarine when it pops up. We have enough anti-submarine warfare. Those HP pools on those subs will go down eventually. And with this long-range fire support, I'll be trying to pick off targets of opportunity, like I've done in this game. We have 2 kills, 132,000 damage. That's a pretty good result for a Yamato. That's in around my averages, I think. I think my average, it's maybe, 130, 140, something like that. I've had this ship quite a while. I think I have over 1,000 games in this thing already, which is kind of crazy to see. I've spent a lot of time in this game. But moving on, there is just one more kill to get in this game, and it is the Shimakaze. So I actually end up with a 4-kill game here, and around that 140,000 damage, which I think is decent. Nothing too special, but I did want to talk about a more passive playstyle, where I think I see battleships going in the future, given this meta. And I want to know how to play in this meta and enjoy myself, because I really do like World of Warships still. So let me know what you're thinking down below. I really do.
So there you go. What do you guys think? So that was April 5th. So this is Potato Quality. He was with the original 07 clan that did very well at the Kings of Sea tournament right at the very beginning. So this video was April 5. Now we're going to move to another one here, which is on April the 6th. April the 6th. And here's where he gets right specifically into playing the submarines. So, my personal take, I think we should be have CVs, which are aircraft carriers, and submarines in their own game mode, similar to co-op. So when you go in, you got random battle, you got co-op, and then you got CVs and subs. They can be supported by robots. And that would make a better overall experience for everybody and allow them to open up for special game modes where they can interact separately and further refine the experience. Like, these guys just don't get it. And this is where they should be focusing their attention. But you can't lead a horse to water if it's not willing to friggin' drink the water. Simple as that. So let's move on to this where he goes into subs. And this is after this past video. This one's on April the 6th. Directly into subs. So questions, comments, throw in chat.
So today I've got a few submarine games for you. Isn't that fun? I promise these are the interesting parts. I've definitely cut these out so that you actually see what the gameplay part is like, not all of the waiting. And let me be honest, there's a lot of waiting. But early on in the games I was playing, I often tried to use this strategy of just sending my torps out as soon as I had range on the cap, especially with the Belau, with its 2 launcher reload times. It was an interesting way to potentially get an easy first hit on a destroyer that rushes a cap. Our Holland rushed in, and if the enemy destroyer had as well, I could have got a quick ping and potentially landed some good torpedoes on him. That didn't happen, so then we just get to take the B cap for free. This is something that is incredibly strong about these subs. Our Holland just rushed in and YOLO'd. But for myself, there's really no risk in me doing this since I can just dive. The Holland doesn't even have a smoke. So it's very, very, very risky for him. But I think that's one of the big issues here is there's not a lot of risk in playing these aggressive positions. And especially now with how tanky it feels like these submarines are, it's very difficult to die unless you go all the way in super hard and get yourself surrounded. Even then, I've found it's very difficult to die. Of course, another strategy to deal with destroyers is send some torpedoes towards their smoke and then blind hit a ping. I'm laughing, but this guy, I guarantee you, was a little bit frustrated with that. I know I would be. That's an easy 6,000 damage. Now, moving forward, we did force the Elbing out, and he does spot us. So he knows we're here. He knows we're caught bow in. I'm assuming he's going to want to go aggressive. He hasn't really seen much of my teammates around, so I just preemptively launch some torps for him and turn away. I'm really not scared here. It's shocking, actually. This ship, the Elbing, the destroyer, should be a pretty terrifying threat for me, and yet I'm really not afraid. I can just dive and run away. It's so easy. And in fact, our preemptive torps landed 1. So that's 13k into this Elbing so far. And now that we know he's used his damage control, since our damage numbers aren't ticking up, and we did land a flood there, he can't repair this ping. So we get ourselves a couple pings on target, not even a double ping, and we land another torp. And guess what? This one's flooding. So we do have an enemy submarine to deal with. He did land a couple pings on ourselves, but a quick repair and we'll be out of the way of those torps in no time. Getting one last ping in, and this is a double ping. Look at how long this timer is. 75 seconds. So those 2 torpedoes on the way are pretty much guaranteed to hit this poor Elbing, since I don't believe his damage con is going to be up in time. And sure enough, we actually land 2 more torps. So we've done 30,000 damage to that poor Elbing so far. We are locked on though. Unfortunately, our own damage control isn't available, and the Belau gets another 2 torps into us. But a quick dive, emergency use of our consumables to make us a little more maneuverable, and we barely avoid them. But honestly, it's not a huge deal. I found that sub versus sub combat is this weird game of just laser tag. The torps don't really do a lot of damage. You'll see here we actually do manage to hit one, and it's only around 4,000 damage, which isn't great. The idea behind sub versus sub combat, in my mind, really is about spotting each other and your teammates doing the damage to one another. So, unfortunately, our second one will miss. But these pings underwater certainly do look a little bit like slow lasers. It's a weird combat style. It was interesting only because I hadn't really done much of it. I think over time, the sub versus sub combat will get pretty boring. As far as the subs versus battleships, well, it's just free. This is the most free gameplay experience you're ever going to get. This is the turn it on easy mode in Doom Eternal and just wreck face. Like, that's what this is here. There's really no danger at all. The only danger is that the enemy battleships die before my torps get there. I'm actually really not going to do much damage at all here, since these enemy battleships are going to die that quickly. I think that's really the unfortunate side of these subs. The gameplay loop is relatively easy, and unfortunately, it also means it's hard to get big damage scores unless you're very, very aggressive or get some pretty lucky games. I found myself often stonewalled by some destroyers or the enemy submarines, not able to get to the back lines like I want to be right here. Like, this damage is so simple to get. As I'm missing my pings, let's just ignore that and move on. It's very easy damage to get, but it always happens right at the end, and you notice the Prince Ruprecht is going to go down here. The enemy team is going to tick out on points. So I don't really have high damage games, and yet it's not a lot of fun, and there's not really a lot of interesting mechanics here. So nothing's really changed in that respect from the old sub-tests. My conclusion from that has largely stayed the same, outside of, well, these new ones are a little harder to take down, which is certainly disappointing for a surface ship. Especially if you're in an Elbing and you lose almost all your health to a single submarine. That is demoralizing. So I think I'm going to have to figure out a way to deal with these subs in my destroyers. I haven't played a lot of DDs against subs yet, but it certainly does feel very one-sided in these engagements. Something else I found about subs is a lot of these very well-contested caps. The C cap on this map and the D cap on North is very tough to get. This choke point is such a stalemate for most of the games that I've played on these maps that a lot of the time it's tough to even take these caps. But early game, no problem. I'll just YOLO in with my sub and hopefully take the cap above water. I'm using the island, of course, on my right to block some spotting from the enemy destroyers, and I get a cap very, very easily. To me, it's a little shocking how easy it is to play these objectives, how little risk I find in playing the objective like this. I'm not really much of a history professional or knowledgeable very well about especially naval history, but I do feel like when a submarine is around enemy ships, the goal really is to stay undetected as much as possible and not show yourself very easily to the enemy. I could be wrong. You could very well correct me in the comments down below, but it seems a little bit risky to be just full charging into capture zones like this without a care in the world. It seems a little bit counterintuitive to me, at least in terms of what I know of submarines, and that when they do get hit, they tend to die very quickly. They want to avoid taking hits, as far as I know. But here, I am undetected. I'm playing at periscope depth here, so I've got a very small concealment circle. But it still feels a little odd how easy I find it to just send it into caps. That's essentially my start of every match I'm playing. I'm just going to head straight for the cap and hopefully spot some stuff. And then if I do, maybe dive and run away, and, well, or I'll take a cap for free, like I have in these last two games. You'll notice smoke screens are some of the easiest targets for submarines. These very slow stationary ships are very, very, very easy to kill. And assuming you're decent with your predictions, these blind fire pings are not hard to get at all. So we've already landed 4 torps on this poor Harbin. I guess that's, yeah, the tier 8 from the new Ban Asian line. If you watch my videos as I grind my way through this ship, and you'll know I hated the Harbin. So this is what suffering looks like. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. This poor Harbin player. I'm sorry. I've been there, man. Harbin is really, really, really rough. But yeah, submarines just make it that much harder. This poor guy got killed through no fault of his own, really. He just used his smoke, played aggressive, tried to get close to the cap, try and even be in range to shoot, and a submarine just pinged him through his smoke and killed him outright. It's a little ridiculous, in my opinion, still, just how unfair this is. It's at the same time as it's boring to play and boring to play against, it's also unfair. It feels very unfair from the surface ship perspective, and I don't really know what to change that. This current iteration, it's very frustrating. You know, this poor Stalingrad is behind an island from me. He knows where I am. I've been spotted. He knows I'm behind an island, and yet these torps, I curved around that island, and since I had a double ping, well, that's an 80-second homing timer. This poor guy takes 20k, and he actually goes down to my team. Fast forwarding this last little bit, I thought this was a hilarious clip. This poor Hindenburg. He's dodging all of my team. Like, the game is over at this point, but at the same time of trying to dodge all of my teammates, it's ping, 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 ping in the background. It's just constant, never-ending homing torps for this poor guy. And, oh, he damage conned it. Okay, well, let's decide to send more torps out and ping, ping, ping away again. I'm not actually going to get any damage here, but for the Hindenburg player, I think we can all agree he wasn't having the best experience there. I don't think that is a particularly enjoyable experience. He was going to die anyway without me there, but those extra pings can get very, very frustrating. And I'm speaking from experience. I've been in that spot as a surface ship player, trying to avoid all the other surface ship combat that you're engaged with, and then there's something you can't really deal with constantly just poking at you from the background. Of course, if a battleship decides to push, well, that's the easiest target in the world, so this Yamato is going to be forced to turn out here. He actually dumps his anti-submarine warfare very quickly. I think these new pings are a way to bait or trap enemy battleships into using their anti-submarine warfare. It's really not good to blind fire these, since most DDs aren't, or sorry, most submarines aren't just going to be sitting stationary. You'll notice how badly his anti-submarine warfare missed me by. He used his damage control right away, which actually worked out for him. I wasn't able to re-ping him for those initial set of torps. But the Belau is one of those spin-to-win style ships where there's torps front and back, constantly reloading. And, well, we get them with the second set here. And this is what I'm talking about when I say these ships are just a little bit too tanky and able to withstand very dangerous positions for too long. I am bow in, forcing myself closer to a Småland, a Belau, surrounded by ships like a Hindenburg, Elbing, Kurfürst, Yamato, and my team is all gone. This is a really bad position. It's time for me to turn away. But surprise, surprise, I do manage to get away with basically all of my health intact. I just ran away and kept these guys spotted for the most part. That was really my goal here. You'll notice I'm stirring in here. I'm ready to turn away and, well, get away very quickly. And since I outspot the Elbing, I outspot the DD, I can just sit on the surface and constantly spot this guy. These DDs that are seemingly requiring themselves to play around concealment, since they don't have a heal. They don't have the ability to dive underwater and become essentially immune to damage and spotting. They don't have that luxury. So this guy is forced to smoke up here, and it doesn't feel very fair from that surface ship perspective. I think that's the main thing to consider here that I have noticed a lot with these submarines is the counterplay. What it feels like to play against these things is it feels unfair. It doesn't feel like a balanced PvP experience. And as far as playing the subs go, well, if I show you 3 games in the course of, well, around 10 minutes, there's some action here. There's some recent, tense fights and experiences, but even then, it's really just me beating up on people. This poor Elbing takes 4 torps in his smoke after I got another double ping. And of course, because he ate all those torps, he wanted to damage con, and when he comes out of his smoke, I'm ready to spot him again, and I can just dive underwater like this to avoid damage. after I get my guaranteed ping, my torps are on the way already. What's a destroyer player to do other than run away? I don't think that's a very valid way to counterplay these. That doesn't seem like gameplay to me. So, unfortunately, I haven't had insane damage games, but they've all been games that I think showcase how annoying these submarines can be. But let me know what you think in the comments down below, and thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Okay, so there you go, folks. That was January, sorry, April the 6th, that video. Okay, so there you go, folks. That was January, sorry, April the 6th. Okay, so now we're going to switch to the last video in this series. And this will be one that was done on April, what was it, the 8th or the 9th? And the byline on this one's going to be, submarines might be worse than CVs or aircraft carriers. Yeah, so this was on April the 8th. So submarines might be worse than aircraft carriers, aka CVs in World of Warships. So that's where we're coming at with this one here. So, without further ado, let's get into this video. Let us know what you think.
In a previous video this week, I showed you a bit of submarine gameplay, and I talked a lot about how confident I felt and how little risk there was in playing aggressive in a submarine. And since I had such a miserable time playing the game the other day, I thought it'd be a fun experience for us to watch it together and experience the other side of submarine gameplay. So in this one, I'm in an Ohio, actually probably the best or one of the best battleships at tier 10. This ship is just incredibly tough to take down. It's good at mid to long ranges, even at close range thanks to its decent secondaries and armor, and of course we have a ton of overmatch. I happen to have HE loaded in this one for the start for some reason, but managed to get a fire. Sometimes Ohio can function a little like a Thunderer, not quite though. But here we have our culprit, our submarine player. Ohio of course only has 6-kilometer anti-submarine warfare, or it's not very good. It's just really, really bad, and it doesn't do a whole lot. There's going to be a lot of points in this video where I get decent drops and I start getting hits on these subs, and it just doesn't really lead to much damage. This one was not the best hit, but we'll see later on that there's some pretty decent hits coming in, and the damage output is so low. It's shockingly low, and that's really the problem here, is the damage output is so low on these new versions of submarines. They have a lot of confidence in playing very aggressive. So here, I'm trying to take the B cap. I'm in a reasonably good position here, and, well, the submarine's not in the cap on the other side, so where could he be? Well, traditionally, I guess I would think a destroyer might go try and torp the Musashi, try and deal with the other DD around A, but this submarine is actually able to walk around behind this island and not be spotted 4 kilometers away from me, and torps me out. Fortunately, the damage output isn't enough to really kill me here, but it is certainly enough to force me forward and, well, make me reposition into a terrible position. This is often the problem, at least right now, for myself when it comes to submarines. I get myself into a position where I want to make a play, I want to play aggressive, but then a submarine enters a position which would be traditionally an escape route for myself, and then I'm out of luck, and I have to just charge in and hope for the best. So that's what we're going to do here. Our secondaries certainly opening up on this submarine, but the damage output is pretty low even from these secondaries, so this submarine is really just able to sit there and tank these shells for an incredibly long time, and with the new torpedoes sent, I'm forced behind this island. And now there's really nothing I can do since he is no longer spotted. I think the ability to play this aggressive with the submarines is a bit of a problem. As a lot of you mentioned, thankfully, that know much more about naval warfare and history than I do, submarines, as I've learned now, are traditionally more of a raider style of ship, something that would have gone after convoys, attacking supply routes, that kind of thing, from stealth. And if they did participate in a reasonably large size battle, they're probably just there for spotting. That's what I was learning from the comments, so I really appreciate you guys letting me know about that. So this tanky style of a submarine that is extremely active and aggressive in combat doesn't seem to fit history. But it's an arcade game, so it shouldn't really necessarily fit history. It should be fun. And that's the problem. This historical way of doing things for submarines has been changed into an unfun experience. And I think it's not very fun for either party, since submarines are very boring, in my opinion, and from what I've seen, a lot of you agree. And for the surface ship player, it's incredibly frustrating to deal with, as you just don't know where they are, and they'll be ping after ping after ping, and like here, I get caught bow in. I'm full health. I'm trying to play a little more aggressive. My team is starting to lose this game, and as soon as I turned in this match, you'll notice over 5 minutes has passed, I was kited away. I was playing very passive to start. The instant I turned in bow in, a submarine popped up, and of course is able to launch a bunch of homing torpedoes on me. And I'm not going to pop my damage con, since the new pings are just going to come the instant my damage con is down. So I just sat there and tanked it. And that was okay as long as I have teammates around. Fortunately, I had some pretty decent teammates in this one, and some of my destroyers actually forced the submarine away a little bit. And I managed to catch some broadsides and do okay. I actually do pretty good in this game, I would say. But it's still just this lack of counterplay, this lack of gameplay at all in between submarines and surface ships. It reminds me a lot of carriers, just that submarines don't contain that facade of gameplay and interaction like AA and Flak would be. We all know there's really no gameplay in AA since it's all automated, and for submarines, it really is non-existent, let's be honest. Only when a submarine is spotted like this do I have any form of interaction, and even then, I had 2 really good drops there, in my opinion. I think they were quite good drops, and I did, what, 1,000 damage? It's pretty sad. I struggle to understand why these are in the game in their current iteration. It seems like the feedback that has been received by Wargaming from the community has been completely ignored, and this is quite possibly the worst iteration of submarines yet. It's just ridiculous, frankly, and I don't know how to play against them. I've been really trying to brainstorm and think of different ways to play into this and still enjoy the game. It just doesn't seem to exist. I think the only thing I can do is run away. And if the only thing in the game I can possibly do is counterplay, is to run away, I don't think that's great game design. Again, I'm not a game designer. I haven't gone to school for game design. I've never developed my own game, but I do know that in a PvP multiplayer experience, there should be some PvP, right? And this just isn't it. So I really hope Wargaming makes some changes. As I think a lot of you have heard already, they've pulled out of Russia and broken off completely with Lesta Studio, as it's called. That's their Russian main office they had. So we'll see what this new main developer is for the most of the world for World of Warships. I don't really know what this changeover is going to look like. There really hasn't been a lot of information on it, but I'm sure you've heard about it. And if you haven't, well, that's about all the information we have out there right now. So we'll see. I hope Wargaming will do a decent job with this changeover and hopefully have some good developers in mind to take over primary development of this game. And I hope those developers take a good hard look at the current iteration of submarines in this game and make some changes. I hope they listen to the community, and I really hope they do, actually. I don't want to be too pessimistic, but it feels like to me they couldn't do any worse, right? I'll just knock on wood real quick and we'll move on. at the end of this game here, we'll see that I did manage to take out that Worcester, being a little too aggressive, but that did open up an opportunity for the Kaba to YOLO our Conqueror, who was doing a good job trying to get in and stall the middle cap out. But at this point, it really is just YOLO time for myself, and this Holland should be just YOLOing in, but it's a little too late for that, I guess. And, well, this Venezia offers himself up as a free kill, so we'll try and take him out. Into this late game, I really want to focus on the lack of counterplay from a gameplay perspective. I'm not going to talk too much about it anymore, but a destroyer pops up and he's dealing damage to me. Okay, that damage is incoming and I can see him. I know he's got torpedoes, so I need to slow down and turn in to avoid them. Those torpedoes aren't going to magically turn and focus in on me again. So there's some counterplay there. There's some gameplay that I can do here to deal with these torpedoes, and of course the ship itself. I also know there's a gearing along that flank as well, so I'm going to have to watch out for more torpedoes from that flank. There's also a submarine though, but what do I do against a submarine that has torpedoes that can just home in on me? That's the real big issue here. And the other problem is the submarine can sit right next to me and I won't be able to spot him at periscope depth and certainly below water. Ships can be literally directly below my ship, and I will not spot them. Submarines can be directly below my ship, and I will not be spotting them. And again, it's this whole issue with overloaded damage controls. These pings are so powerful. These homing torpedoes are really, really, really strong. And the only way I can remove the homing is to use my damage control, which has an 80-second cooldown. The pings have, what, a 5-second, 7-second cooldown? It just seems a little bit too much. And now here, I'm stuck bow in to a submarine. I have no choice. I have to push in to try and win this game. But it's just kind of ridiculous to me that this submarine gets spotted at 5.5 kilometers with a full battery on 2,000 HP, 3,000. So, I don't know. It just seems like this guy should have known to just sit at periscope depth, not on the water. I don't know. Do people just not know how to play these? Are we going to see buffs to submarines? Because, well, the gameplay of them is just not up to the standard of a normal tier 10 ship, since it's pretty easy to get submarines. Anybody with, I believe, a tier 6 ship can work their way up to a tier 10 submarine through the XP grind on those missions. I did have to slow down and dodge Kabatorps. That's what I was slowing down and turning in for. Unfortunately, I did eat another set of torpedoes from that same submarine, and we're actually going to flood out to them. So, yeah, pretty rough set of games, and these ones actually happened back to back. So I wasn't too happy with submarines in the moment, as you can probably imagine. But a day later, can talk about it a little more freely, and I really just want to know what I'm supposed to do different here. I don't understand what I'm supposed to do other than run away. As you can see, the Shima Conqueror division tried a lot. I tried, but we end up actually losing this one. And I took 60,000 damage from homing torps, which I really couldn't do much about unless I just ran away. And that would have guaranteed a loss in this scenario. Really, really, really unfortunate scenario here. You'll notice 8 airstrikes only did 9,000 damage to those submarines. Not even half of one of their health. So really, depth charges don't do a whole lot. What am I supposed to do here? I'm at a loss. I actually am at a loss here. I don't know what to do. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below of how to deal with submarines. What are some things we can do as a community, as individual players?
So what do you guys think? Is there a counterplay for subs and CVs? I really think, and I'm going to say it again, they should put CVs and subs in their own game mode. And then they can do special events where you can get the regular community where they can go into a certain mode and play against CVs and subs and test how the interaction works. But these guys just don't seem to get it. The CVs, they just ram down people's throats. Then the subs, they're just ramming down people's throats. And as Potato Quality there mentions, he says, hey, listen, they're not even listening to the community. And whether it's at the forums, their own World of Warships forums, they're not paying attention. YouTube, where there's a lot of people, we all like the game, but they don't get the fact that the playing experience for most players is being ruined. And they just do not seem to get that, and they can't figure out a different way of deriving a balance that works more proportionately to the overall player base. And they just don't seem to get how to do that. You never get it perfect, but these guys, I don't know what it is. It's a culture thing from Russia, maybe. Comrade, we know better than you. Come on, guys. Business is business. People are people. Treat people with dignity and respect. Expect dignity and respect back. It's a two-way street no matter where you go. So that's my 2 cents. That's my 5 cents. Crap, that could have been a full 6 bits there. But nonetheless, it's important. Love and peace to everyone. So take care, folks. Talk to you all soon.